Tonight, you will probably do something your ancestors could not have imagined. You will walk into a room designed entirely for sleeping. You will pull back a layer of soft fabric, climb onto a raised platform stuffed with material chosen specifically to support your body, pull another layer of fabric over yourself, adjust a pillow, maybe check your phone one more time, complain that you are not tired yet, and then somehow still wake up tomorrow feeling like you did not sleep enough.
Now, take all of that away. No mattress, no pillow, no blanket, no bedroom, no door to close, no roof guaranteed to stay above you, no heating system humming in the walls, no alarm set for morning. Just you, the ground, whatever you could find to lie on, whatever was warm enough, whatever was safe enough, and the very real possibility that something outside wanted to eat you before sunrise.
So how did ancient humans sleep? The honest answer is that sleep was one of the most dangerous things they did every single day. And the way they handled it tells you something important about how clever they actually were. Because they were not just lying down in the dirt and hoping for the best. They were solving a problem that could kill them every single night.
Let us start with the ground itself, because the ground is not neutral. The ground is cold, damp, hard, full of insects, potentially shared with animals, and heat drains out of your body fast when you are lying directly on cold earth. Lose too much heat overnight, and you do not wake up. So the very first sleep problem was not comfort. It was survival temperature. The solution was not a mattress. It was plants. Archaeologists working at Sabudu Cave in South Africa found evidence of ancient plant bedding dating back around 77,000 years. These were not random piles of leaves. They were layered sleeping mats made from specific plant materials. Sedges and other plants were gathered and arranged deliberately. Some of the plants chosen had properties that could repel insects, which means whoever made these beds was not just thinking about comfort. They were thinking about what would crawl on them while they slept.
Even older evidence was found at Border Cave in South Africa. Bedding layers there date back possibly 200,000 years. Grass, ash, deliberately placed materials. Ancient humans were making beds long before anyone built a furniture store. And some of those beds were smarter than they look. Ash mixed into bedding makes it harder for certain insects to move through. A thin layer of the right plant material between your body and the ground holds heat, reduces moisture, creates a barrier between your skin and whatever lives in the soil below.
This was not luxury. This was engineering. Small scale. Stone Age. But engineering.
Now, the temperature problem had another solution that had nothing to do with what you slept on. It had everything to do with who you slept next to. Ancient humans did not sleep alone if they could help it. Sleeping in a group is one of the oldest and most effective heating systems ever used by any animal. Bodies generate heat. Pack enough bodies close together, and the air between them stays warm, even when the outside air drops dangerously low.
We see this in every group of social mammals that lives in cold environments. Huddle together. Share warmth. The person sleeping alone on the edge of the group was not lucky to have space. They were the coldest. They were the most exposed. And in a hard winter, that difference could matter enormously. Your ancestors were not just sleeping next to each other because they liked each other. They were sleeping next to each other because warmth was survival. Then there was fire. And fire changed everything about where and how humans could sleep. A fire at the entrance of a shelter or in the center of a sleeping space did several things at once. It generated heat that could keep the sleeping area warm through the night. It produced light that made the darkness less absolute. And it created a barrier that most predators would not cross. Even today, large predators avoid fire. For an ancient human sleeping in open or semi-open terrain, a maintained fire was not a camping luxury. It was the difference between waking up and not waking up. But someone had to keep that fire going, which means Sleep was not always the same for everyone in the group at the same time. Some researchers believe ancient groups may have had staggered sleep patterns. Not everyone unconscious simultaneously. Someone always at a lighter level of awareness. Always partially awake. Always listening. This is not just a theory. And it matches something interesting observed in some traditional communities that still live close to nature. Deep sleep and light sleep cycling through a group across the night, like a slow rotating watch system. Not assigned, not scheduled, just the natural result of different people having different sleep rhythms, living together. Where you slept mattered as much as how. Elevation helped. Sleeping off the ground reduced contact with ground insects, ground moisture, and ground predators. Early humans used caves when they could find them. Not because caves are comfortable. Caves are cold, damp, and dark. But a cave with one entrance is defensible. A fire at the entrance covers the only way in. Predators cannot approach from multiple directions. You can hear things coming. That is not comfort. That is a strategic position. When caves were not available, humans built what they could. Simple shelters from branches, hides, and whatever materials the environment offered. Some of the oldest known shelter evidence suggests simple windbreaks and covered sleeping areas going back hundreds of thousands of years. Not houses, not rooms, but deliberate structures placed to block wind, retain heat, and reduce exposure. Even a simple lean-to structure changes your overnight survival odds dramatically in cold or wet conditions. And then there's something almost nobody thinks about when they imagine ancient sleep. The dark. Real dark. Not the dark of a bedroom with a phone screen glowing and streetlights leaking under the curtains. The complete dark of a world with no artificial light at all. Total darkness every night for your entire life. The kind of dark where you cannot see your own hands in front of your face. That kind of dark does something to the brain. Studies of people in environments without artificial light show that natural human sleep is not one single block of unconsciousness. It tends to split. A first sleep of several hours, then a natural waking period of 1 to 2 hours in the middle of the night, then a second sleep until dawn. This two-phase sleep pattern appears in historical records from medieval Europe. It shows up in studies of people living without electric light today. It may be the natural human sleep pattern that existed for most of our history, before artificial light pushed the two phases together into the single block we now call a normal night. What did ancient humans do during that middle waking period? Probably the same things documented in historical records and modern studies. They talked, they tended the fire, they looked at the sky, they thought, they moved around quietly. They were awake in a world that was completely dark and completely quiet, except for whatever sounds the night brought with it. That sounds frightening by modern standards, but for someone who had grown up with it their entire life, it was simply the middle of the night. Normal, expected. The fire still burning, the group still breathing around you, the stars visible overhead if the shelter was open enough to see them, waiting for the second sleep to come. Seasons changed everything. In summer, sleeping was easier in most environments. Warmer temperatures meant less immediate danger from cold. More light in the morning meant waking earlier felt natural. Longer days meant more time to find food, which meant sleeping with a fuller stomach, which is always better. Winter was different. Winter nights were longer, colder, more dangerous. Food was harder to find. Bodies needed more rest to maintain temperature. Huddling became more important. Fire management became more critical. The sleeping space in winter was smaller, tighter, warmer, and more carefully constructed than in summer. Winter sleep was not relaxation. It was one part of a whole system of strategies designed to make it to spring. Ancient humans also slept differently at different points in their lives. Children slept more, older people often slept lighter. New mothers almost certainly slept in fragmented short periods, the same way they do today, because infants have always woken in the night, and that has never been convenient for anyone in any era of human history. The physics of a hungry baby at 2 in the morning have not changed. What changed is everything around that moment. For an ancient mother waking to a crying infant in the middle of the night, the situation was the same emotionally and completely different practically. No crib, no baby monitor, no nursery down the hall. The infant was close, right there, probably sleeping directly against the mother or within arm's reach, because distance at night was danger. And keeping the infant quiet also mattered for the group. A crying infant in the dark could attract attention from things that should not know where you were sleeping.
So, when did modern sleep begin? The honest answer is that it has been changing gradually for thousands of years. Agriculture brought more settled living, which brought more permanent structures, which brought better shelter from elements and predators. More predictable food supplies meant going to sleep less hungry more often. Towns and eventually cities brought new problems: noise, crowding, disease from density, but also new protections: walls, guards, locked doors.
The raised bed on a frame is ancient by our standards, but very new by human history standards. Keeping sleepers off the ground, away from insects and cold, was the original engineering problem. The earliest raised sleeping surfaces we have clear evidence for are thousands of years old. But hundreds of thousands of years of human sleep happened on the ground first, on plant bedding, on hides, next to fires, in caves, under rough shelters, pressed together for warmth. One ear always slightly open for the sound of something moving in the dark outside.
Tonight, when you pull that blanket over yourself and sink into your mattress and complain that you are not comfortable enough, you are the end product of a very long line of people who solved that same problem with plants, fire, body heat, strategic positioning, and the quiet understanding that surviving the night was never guaranteed. They just made it look easy enough that you forgot it was ever hard.